Welcome to episode 1 of Sunrise Talks. We might change the name. We'll see about that. But basically, the idea behind that name is every day, part of what we're doing as part of our routine is we go to the rooftop. We have a pretty nice rooftop with an amazing view. We watch the sunrise. So we thought to ourselves, and as we explain what this whole thing is going to be about, all of these episodes is we just start recording ourselves, speak about the journey, documenting what we're doing. We're going through a nice season. So as you can see today, we're not on the rooftop. So ideally, most of the episodes are going to be there and we'll show you the sunrise as we're watching it. One of the days during the week, we're going to be recording it. But today, we're back in the apartment. We're going to be speaking about what this is about and what we're going to be doing for the next, I would say, probably 6 months, the season that we're in. So basically, welcome to Sunrise Talks. My name is Eduardo. I'm a peak performance coach. For those of you who don't know, I basically help entrepreneurs crush their goals in record time, triple their productivity, and gain and free more than 10 hours a week by getting more done in less time through energy optimization, productivity, habits, mindset, discipline, a lot of that fun stuff. And I'm here with my roommate, best friend, and co-host, Guido. I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Yeah, so my name is Guido. I scale sales teams, basically, and I help them improve their systems through AI. And yeah, I'm super excited for us to watch a bunch of sunrises and just share the journey and see how we can help as many people as possible.
So basically the idea behind this podcast is one of my commitments for this year is growing my brand online. YouTube is something that I'm going to go all in, something that I shared in one of my recent videos. The first video on this channel is I'm going to be posting 3 YouTube videos per week throughout the whole year. And the thing is that me and Guido right now, as I said, we're roommates and we're both in this season of building our businesses. We're both super dialed in. We actually just recently came up with a challenge of 100 days that we're going to be committing to get our businesses off the ground. And part of me posting these videos, thought it would be cool, besides me documenting the journey, the fact that we're together, we're helping each other, even though we don't have the exact same business, we're still considering each other businesses as our own, even though we're not like kind of financially invested in it, but still, we just both want to crush it. We're going to go through this season together. We're going to get super dialed in. So we thought it would be cool to share this. So basically the idea of episode number 1 is, give an intro, what this is going to be about. We're going to be sharing our journey, documenting it as we go. So as we said, one of the things that we are going to be doing as part of our routine is watching the sunrise every day. As I said, we have an amazing view. We'll share that with you the next episode. And as we're doing that, we're going to be one of the days each week, just documenting the journey, what's happening that week. So I think the topic for this week was just to give an intro, why we're going to be doing this, and also speaking about some of the stuff that's literally just been happening during the week. We're not going to be planning these videos. I think it's just going to be us hitting record button, share what's on our mind, the things that are happening. So today's Saturday, January 6th. And basically this week, we were just setting ourselves up for success for the year. So we came up with a challenge, right, that we're going to be doing. But we want to share a little bit about that.
We did. It's called Scaling Season Baby, because that's a funny name. And basically what we have to do is for 100 days straight, not skip any of the rules that we have listed out that we have to do on a daily basis. And these are either positive inclined rules, like we have to do something, or negative inclined rules, which is like we cannot do something. And so my preference is actually negative side, because that allows easier for my brain to differentiate it. For Eduardo, it seems like he's more on the do stuff. But regardless, whatever works for you, that seems to be working well for us. And just 2 days of doing that, I already feel a lot better, and I feel inclined to just keep doing this and then just keep doing it afterwards without any breaks. So I'm super excited for this.
Basically, the idea behind doing this as part of like a challenge is, number 1, gamifying it, but number 2, holding each other accountable. Like even after just 2 days, this is day 3 since we came up with this idea. We've already seen a lot of improvement. So basically, the season that we find ourselves in, and the reason why we're calling it Scaling Season Baby, is because we're focused on scaling our businesses, right? We want to get completely dialed in and basically go through something similar of what Hormozi calls a season of no. You've probably heard that, but for us, it's Scaling Season Baby. So coming up with these rules, as Guido said, we're modifying it based on what works better for each of us personally. As he said, for him, works better to use like no-based rules, and for me, like what I can do or do based rules. But basically, it's all about execution. So the whole idea of doing this, because yes, obviously right now is January 6th. New Year's was a week ago. And obviously New Year's is always a good time to like set new resolutions, set new goals. But we both believe that even though, yes, it's a good time to reflect about what happened during the year, like especially as an entrepreneur, someone who is like growth oriented, we should be committed to change and consistently executing on the stuff that we know is going to take us to where we want to go. So both of our priorities right now is just scaling our business. Like that's literally it. I mean, we have other stuff, like we both are very involved or invested with our like fitness, mental health, all of those things, mindset, all of those things. But right now our priority is business. So instead of setting goals, we are creating this challenge based on like the whole standards thing, right? Because in the end, yes, goals are a great way to, or more a great way to have a sense of direction. But in the end, what we've realized is, yeah, we've both had big goals since we started business. Like I think initially we spoke about this, right? Like, it was like when we went from zero to deciding to become entrepreneurs, like what, 3, 4? I mean, for me it was 3, 4 years ago.
Yeah, for me, like 6 years ago already.
It was all like, oh, the 10K a month, right? And we're obsessed about that. But then we hit that at some point, and then it became like, well, whereas actually kind of where we are right now is like we're obsessed about the 100K a month, right? So those are our goals, and those don't change. But in the end, what's going to get us there are the inputs, right? And the standards. So there's a quote that I love, and that says that you will do nothing to achieve your dreams, but you will do everything to not break your standards. So if you want to reach the life of your dreams and reach your goals, you must turn them into irrefutable standards. So that's kind of what we're doing here with the challenge. We're going to share in a second, like, what are our rules. We're still modifying it based on some of the feedback that we gained this week. But basically is that turning the goals that we have, instead of saying like, yeah, we want to hit 100K a month, whatever, it's what are the standards that are like non-negotiables that happen every single day that we're going to be committing to for 100 days. It's going to be fun. We're going to be sharing with you. And that's kind of the idea behind that, right?
Absolutely. I mean, everybody has good and bad days. The thing is that if we turn our bad days into our previous best days, that's how we improve. Like if the floor just raises, the ceiling naturally will raise as well, because, you know, everybody has undulation. But that's really it. Like the frequency of a heartbeat has ups and downs the same way. The ocean has waves. So we just have to figure out how to make the lowest points so high that we don't even recognize our lives anymore.
So yeah, that's basically where it comes from. So, I mean, as I said, we started like a week ago, we set some rules, but I think we realized this week as we're speaking about it, that some of the rules that we set were mainly focused on like the personal side of things. And you'll see what I mean by that. But basically, because, I mean, just being completely honest, we both were feeling a bit, I would say, I think lost, stuck more than anything. So we're like, okay, what are the things that we can do like as a challenge? I mean, and we both, you also did 75 hard, right? Yeah.
I did, yeah.
So we both did 75 hard. I did it for the first time in January of 2022 when I was going through like a very low point in my life. I was like overweight, my business was struggling, like, and that thing saved me. And I think it was one of the first times, or recently, that it showed me the power of that, like sticking to something consistently. And when I'm doing like a challenge, at least for me, it's like a switch that I turn on and allows me to not break that. So we're like, okay, how can we build that in a way that is actually helping us for our priority right now, which is business? So that's kind of what we did. So after realizing that we were a bit stuck, we're like, okay, what are the standards and the things that are going to help us feel better? So we came up with that. But then after the first 2 or 3 days, we're like, okay, yes, these are cool. We're going to keep doing them. But in the end, what's going to get us to the result is more the standards that we need to set have to be more related towards business, right? Which is our priority. So that's where it comes from. Yeah, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Maybe we can just show them like what exactly are our rules.
So should we show the board?
Let's show the board.
Okay. So what you guys are about to see is our board, our beautiful board right here. It's very powerful for us. Very important. We respect the board a lot. So let's see. Let me just make sure that you guys can see it. All right.
I'm just going to be the lottery hostess here.
Wait, let me just make sure.
No nudity though. Not in this one.
I think we're good there, right?
Yeah. A little bit high, maybe. Or I think it's good. Is it?
Okay. Right. You can see, guys, it'll be very raw, authentic, not super planned. Just going to share what we're going through during this journey. So the board. So we use this to mastermind, just share ideas and everything. Every time that one of us has something that needs help with, we usually rely on this. So we have the sheets for the challenge. This is a really cool concept that we were speaking about yesterday. We'll share about it in a second. But yeah, I don't know if you want to share about the challenge and what we're doing and what this means.
Yeah, for sure. So each of these papers is for each of us. Eduardo likes to make things more complicated than they need to be. No, but this is great. Like, this is just a way to track each individual habit. For me, I prefer the layout of just having each day here kind of spread out. And then regardless, I have the rules here below and he has his rules here above. And basically, yeah, just every day we have to do everything or else we go to hell, as my priest would say. But basically, yeah, it's just a way of like clearly seeing, like if you go into the kitchen, which is behind us or behind the camera, you can't ignore this, like you have to do this stuff. And if you see that you're not doing it, like, you're just going to feel bad. So you might as well do it.
And on top of that, we're holding each other accountable. So the fact that I can see his challenge here and he can see mine here is like we call each other's bullshit out during the day. And honestly, I mean, that's, I think, the reason why I thought it would be cool to just record this is because we're both very obsessed about our businesses and we're committing. I mean, this is going to be the first 100 days, but obviously the whole idea of this is just gain momentum because we were a bit stuck, I think, or not doing the things that we knew that we needed to do and just a lot in our heads. We tend to do that a lot. So we're like, okay, we need to move into a season of execution, and you'll see some of these rules that we have here are related to that. We'll share them in a second, but basically that, like, it's really cool. And honestly, it's very rare to find yourself in a situation where you're with someone, especially, I mean, if you're watching this video and you're coming from my network or his network, you probably can relate to this, but being so like growth oriented, doing your business, like you're probably an outlier to your previous environment, right? Like when you're someone who's focused on like your mindset, your habits, changing, improving, doing your business, like it's easy to find yourself in an environment where you don't relate to people, where people are saying you, especially when you're like your 20s, we're both 26, where people are telling you like, oh, ease off, enjoy life, you're young, blah, 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 that bullshit. Like we're both, we're both like really obsessed about building our business and we've committed to this. I mean, we just started 6 years ago. I started like 4 years ago. We've both been through hard shit, made sacrifices. But yeah, I mean, we wouldn't change anything of that for the world. So the fact that we were able to, make this work, become roommates as we're doing this, thought it would be really cool. First of all, hold each other accountable, but then share that with you. So if you have someone that you can hold to do something similar, or just the fact of accountability, it's just a full game changer. Like even if it's only been 2 days, we've already seen the power of this. Like me having that, like, how do you call it? Like craving of breaking one of these rules and just thinking like, no, like it would be hard for me to face video at night and be like, shit, like, bro, like I have to cross this because I didn't fulfill it. So it's really, really powerful. So I think it's cool if we share the rules. Just wanted to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, okay, I'm going to share mine because they're very similar, a little bit different. And as I said, we're still modifying them based on what we learned this week. So first one for me, following my meal plans and my macros and no desserts. So it's, I realized that 3 pillars I think that we both share is when I'm following or when we're following our nutrition, when we're eating good food, putting nice fuel in our body, not eating crap, we're sleeping properly and moving our bodies, exercising. It's like those pillars that keep us in a really, really good state. So for me, I'm very into nutrition. I got super deep into that topic last year. So for me, it's like I track all of my macros every day. So for me, it's tracking my macros, sticking to my meal plan, and no desserts. So that's number one thing for you.
Mine is pretty similar. It's more based on no's as well, but because if I eliminate the things that kind of create problems, I just tend to follow my macros. It's not a problem. So for me, I have no sugar, no bad oils like vegetable oils and soy and stuff like that. No dairy, no soy, and no coffee, which you just saw I'd rather take a sip, maybe. Yeah, that is very attractive and I want to do it. But for me, at least, it makes me anxious and it makes my bests higher before a short time, but then the worst comes in and then just becomes exacerbated. So after trying 3 weeks with no coffee, I feel way better and way happier. And yeah, so it's just the best thing I can do for myself is to control myself and not
Caffeine
take
doesn't
it
work for him, but I love it.
It does not. It does not.
So that's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is following our sleep schedule. So initially it was going to be 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., but this week we ended up changing. I mean, I think we both are going to change it.
Yeah.
From to, I think for me, 5:30 to 6.
Yeah, for me, 9 to 6, 9 to 6:30. Still experimenting. But
yeah, but basically sticking to a sleep schedule helps us, stay on top of it.
Yeah.
Good quality sleep, enough hours. So yeah, we're both aiming for 9 hours because let me remind you something. 9 hours of bed does not equate to 9 hours of sleep, right? So we're both hitting it hard. With fitness and also, with the business, we're like really, really dialed in and working a lot. So sleeping well and having those 8 to 9 hours helps us a lot. So that's the other one. For me, no screens past 8 p.m., But if that was assuming that I was going to be going to bed at 10 p.m. So if I'm going to be shifting it to 9 p.m., I'm probably going to change the no screens at 7:30. So at least for me personally, helps me a lot, increases my sleep quality a lot if I cut screens off at least an hour and a half before going to bed. So, I mean, if I was going at 10, 8 was a good time so I could still take some calls in the afternoon, but I'm pushing it back to 9. I think I'm going to move that back to 7:30. So that's going to be the change. Yeah, I'm basically cutting off screens. The next one, which is related to fitness for me is 10,000 steps every day as a bare minimum or following my routine. So right now I'm preparing for a half marathon that I'm going to run in February. I'm enjoying running a lot, helps me physically, but also mentally. And the challenge itself, every time that I expose myself to challenges, that's when I personally thrive. So that helps me a lot. So I'm incorporating that as part of my routine. But bare minimum, if it's, for example, like a rest day, at least getting 10,000 steps. I track that with a Fitbit and just moving helps me a lot. So that's for me personally, that's what helps me get my best. And some days I'm still lifting weights. I'm lifting weights 3 days a week, running some other days. And there are some days I just stretch and at least get 10,000 steps.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, more movement always is better, right? But I noticed that the threshold for like feeling like garbage is like 3 times a week. If I go less than 3 times a week to the gym, then I'm done. So that's my minimum. And at the end of the day, like, could I push that further? I could, of course. And I've done like 7 days a week before. But my goal is business primarily. And so I just want to do the bare minimum so I stay consistent.
Minimum effective dose.
Exactly. Right? And just all the energy goes into business. So this is just to help me in the business, not for itself. I really don't care about that, honestly. So that's my minimum dose, as Eduardo said.
So that's that. And the next one, which I think is basically the same one, is no YouTube, Instagram, WhatsApp, mail, or any of those super addictive dopamine releasing platforms that are very distracting outside of our calendar. So why do I emphasize on that? Because we're both probably going to be using some of these platforms for our business, but there is a very big difference between using, for example, Instagram as part of your business, whether it's posting a story, posting a piece of content, or replying to DMs versus mindlessly scrolling, right?
Yeah.
So we both realized that we're going through, I think YouTube was the biggest one, right?
Yeah,
like for both of us, we're losing or wasting a lot of time on YouTube, rabbit holes, consuming information. And right now, this is a season of execution. Like we've realized that like you need to execute, right? If you need results, you need to execute. So we have this rule. So we're basically, what we did is we literally, like, I don't know if you can see, but I'll show you in a second, but we have a TV here in front of obviously a sofa. We're using that a lot with YouTube as we were, having dinner at night. So we literally plugged off the screen. We uninstalled YouTube. We deleted it from our phones. We're using blockers on our computer. So we're literally adding friction because you don't realize, and this probably happened to you guys, like when you have, how many times have you been with your phone where you literally just open your phone unconsciously and you find yourself suddenly on YouTube or iTunes 30 minutes or an hour later, you realize that you're like, how the fuck did I end up here, right? So it's important to add friction to those things because nowadays it's so easy and so accessible. So it's a whole concept of using friction. So adding friction on the stuff that you want to remove so that you cannot fall into that. It's like the whole analogy of like, let's say that you're cutting and you love cookies. It's way easier to not even buy cookies, don't have cookies at home versus having a jar of cookies. And every time that you walk by in front of it, like you're going to end up like giving into that, like that craving, right? Like we're limited with resources, right? And willpower is limited. So that's a big rule that we have.
Yeah. Adding to that as well, like at least for me personally, removing as many apps as possible on the phone. I learned this from Eduardo and I made my screen black. So it's really as boring as possible. And I basically went back to the 1940s or whenever, non-color TV existed. And it's a grayscale. There's just no excitement on this whatsoever. And every other app is blocked that I don't need. So it's as boring as possible so that the only exciting thing to do is business or the gym.
Yeah. So yeah, just adding on top of that, because I think that's a crucial point. So we realized, and I think it's a big problem, the whole dopamine thing. You've probably heard about that, the whole famous dopamine detox. I think Iman Gadzhi is the one who made it famous.
Yeah.
But basically, yeah, this, in some of my certifications where we go super deep into the science behind this about peak performance. But dopamine, yes, is something that our body releases, which is like a very exciting and addictive feeling. And the problem with all of these platforms, and something that we have to understand, is that the people that designed these platforms understand how our brains work better than we do, right? Like better than you can possibly imagine. Like they understand exactly what are the things that trigger your brain, and their only objective is just to keep you hooked, to keep your attention, right? So what's the problem when you're using, I mean, video games are also like very like triggering your dopamine, the phone, the social media. So yeah, the everything. So when you're doing those things, like, and you're so used to it, and that's a problem that nowadays, like us doing these things, we're the weird ones, right? Like you're not using your phone, you're going to bed early, like you're focusing on your business when you're 20s, like you're the weird one, right? Most of the people are like, bro, like not a big deal, like don't delete social media. Like I don't think people get it how much it fucks you up. But literally what happens is when you're getting all of these dopamine hits all of the time, like your dopamine, I would say baseline goes up. So what does that mean? That it means that you need this super extremely like entertaining stuff to actually feel that like that reward from dopamine, because like these things are super, like, I don't know how to explain, like they trigger you in a very, very high way, right? Like they heighten your senses. Like just think about how different it is for you to, like, when you're, for example, playing a video game where you have all of these colors, all of these lights, all of these noises, like those things are like extremely, extremely addictive and entertaining. Yeah. So you stop finding pleasure in smaller things in life, like reading a book, like doing work. So the whole point of us getting rid of all of these things that create dopamine is like bringing our dopamine levels down. So as Guido says, we get so bored, which is a good thing, that we actually find enjoyment and pleasure from doing work or from reading a book. Just imagine how much further you would be ahead if you're someone who's doing business, or let's say that your goal is fitness or reading a book. Like how much further would you be if you found the exact same reward and excitement and fulfillment by just literally doing your work or hitting the gym or reading a book? The problem is that we stopped finding excitement in those things because we were getting this dopamine hits from these artificial sources. So I think that's where it all comes from. So, yeah. I mean, I've seen that, like, since he removed coffee, the movies, the YouTube, the IG, like, I saw that in the last, I mean, it's funny because he is so bored now. And I mean, we're kind of both getting into that same baseline that, yeah, it was funny for me to see how much he started enjoying smaller things, like, because of how low your baseline was, right? So it was a really fun thing to see.
For sure, yeah. And porn, I don't know if you want to talk about that, but you know, I think it's a pretty common thing in the society that people watch porn, and you know, it's, you know, there's debates about if it's good or not. I think at the end of the day, for this dopamine purpose, which is ultimately what matters for us right now, it's not helpful, you know, and it's also not exactly what you'd want to be doing with your time, probably.
Yeah.
So that's also something I've cut out completely, and I feel a lot better, honestly. I feel less stupid, honestly.
And I mean, I think in the end, something that is important to see here, that even though they're very similar, it's not exactly the same. Why? Because we're both very conscious and aware of what are the specific things that work for us. So for example, what we just said about, for him, hitting the gym 3 times a week is enough for him to feel good. For me personally, like I perform at my best when I get moved some type of movement every day. So it's not necessarily like hitting the gym super hard, because you also need recovery days, but not doing anything, I've seen it does mess up with me a little bit, but at least getting 10,000 steps. So what I sometimes do is literally just pair an activity, for example, clearing my inbox or reading a book, with just being in the treadmill. So I just go to the treadmill for an hour, 45 minutes, whatever, slow pace, walk, and do paired with something else. So as you can see, you don't have to follow these exactly as he's doing, or in the end is building this challenge in a way that is more adapted towards you. So that's, for example, why also he removed COVID-19, because it doesn't fuck up with me a lot. Then the last part and the things that, as I said, we're still finishing this week to define what are those tasks, is the business related stuff. So as you could see, some of these things were more related on like our baseline, basically, to perform better, because in the end, especially I think in this type of business, coaching business, yes, everyone says, or we've heard this a lot from entrepreneurs, where you're an extension of your business, right? But I think especially in this business where you literally as a coach are your own product and your service, it's, I think, even more drastic. So taking care of ourselves physically, mentally, making sure that we're in a good state is like the baseline, right? So that's why we have those things there.
Yeah. So,
and then it's obviously adding the stuff about business. So when it comes to business, that's the last part that we're finalizing to define this week. So for me, one that is already here is the 3 YouTube videos per week, which is part of what I want to do this year. So I'm committing to that every single week throughout the whole year. And the other things that we're still defining, which are going to be part of this, like non-negotiables, is like, I mean, stuff that we need to do: clearing the inbox, client delivery, what else?
Product creation if needed, and advertise yourself.
So basically, I think if we could summarize it, is making sure that every single day we're advertising ourselves, because that's what brings revenue. And the season that we're in right now, we have to go all in with getting leads, selling, obviously having amazing products that deliver incredible results. We're both super results oriented and very insecure about not giving people really good results, which is one of the things that kind of has held us back in the past. We've realized because it is important, and we both have seen that in the industry. Unfortunately, we've been failed by the industry. We've both invested thousands of dollars in a lot of different programs that honestly have not been good. And we've heard that from a lot of other people in the industry that we've become close to. So we both care a lot about that. But in the end, I think it's also important and a big lesson for us to not hide behind I want to make the best and most perfect product out there and not sell. Because, I mean, first of all, I don't think it's doable because you need real feedback from real people. So that's kind of our challenge, which is why we're going to make it part of the challenge to every single day advertise. It's just the only reason why it's not here yet is because we're still defining what is going to be the funnel that each of us is going to use. And we just want to get clear on that before. And then we're going to make it part of this. And every single day we advertise. So anything else that we have to add for the challenge?
No, I think that's pretty much it. Advertise and then just talk about this as the last concept with them.
So that is a challenge. And that's what we're going to be committing for the next 100 days. As I said, I'm going to be doing 3 YouTube videos a week. One of them is probably going to be these conversations. So you can expect for probably the next 6 months, one of these videos. Next one, ideally in the sunrise, we're going to share it with you. And we're just going to be speaking about what happens each week. So hopefully next week, we're going to have the full challenge already with the advertising part there. And so this concept, something we were speaking about yesterday, I don't know if you want to share it.
Yeah,
because the artist that created this beautiful graph, something that helped me a lot yesterday, honestly. So I think it's really cool if we speak about this.
Yeah, I didn't go to college, but I can draw basic stuff. But basically,
did go to college for like 6 months,
for like 3 months each time. Not a good idea for me. So basically, this is not my idea. Okay, I took it from Armin Shafi from etiquettecoaching.com. Okay, give credit where it's due. But it's been pretty popular. Hormozi has the version of the Valley of Despair. Armin has this. I felt like this was the easiest way. And then you have the dip from Seth Godin. Basically, what happens is that when you try something, right, in the beginning, you kind of are super excited and you kind of get this immediate, like the universe somehow like gives you some reward for your work right away. And it
makes
the
courage.
Exactly. Like, it's just like
with yourself out there.
Yeah, you got this, man. Like, let me give you some rewards. But then, like, naturally over the next 6 months, typically it's like 6 months for some reason. I don't know why. 6 months. And it goes
based
like,
on our experience. Yeah.
Yeah. It becomes wider and wider, like longer and longer as you get more discipline as well, right? You're more seasoned in business, but your excitement kind of starts to go down as well as your results, right? So this is like both excitement and results, right? And then basically what happens is that, like, I've personally, like, the reason why I'm still in this place after 6 years is because I quit here, like, exactly in the point where all the thoughts come in of like, well, it's really hard to get client results, right? Or I don't know, maybe it's just not going to work. Maybe I don't have enough skills. Maybe I should go work for somebody else first, all these things that start to come in, and it basically just intensifies over here. And this is the hardest part. And most people kind of start thinking like, why is business so hard? Like, it was so exciting. Now I'm not excited anymore. Maybe this is not the right.
All right. So for whatever reason, the camera decided to stop recording. Yeah, it's never going to be perfect tech. So I don't know where we left. We're explaining this.
I know more or less. Basically, I think we were like here explaining this, right? So basically what happens is your excitement goes down. And after 6 months, all the bad thoughts come in and you start, like, you have all the reasons to quit. So it almost seems natural, right? You start justifying yourself, and others also tell you maybe like, yeah, you're right, man. Maybe this is not the right thing for you, right? But that's where you fuck up. Like, that's the problem. Like, that's what I did for so many years. And yes, I've gathered a lot of skills, but I still haven't been able to collect the money from those skills because of this, right? And so people expect this not to be hard, right? Like, they expect always to be smooth sailing, always to be excited. But it's the people that don't need to be motivated that win. It's the people that when they reach here, they double their efforts in order to get to the other side where all the rewards come. It's the people that get here and don't judge themselves for feeling bad, because it's normal to feel like shit right here. Like, you're supposed to feel bad. But the worst thing you can do is either go back to the beginning by starting something new, right? Oh, excitement, dopamine, blah, blah, or stay stuck here and not do anything to get out of it, right? Let the momentum die. And then, you just don't do anything to get out of it. That's the two things you should not do. The only thing you should do is double the work, forget how you feel, and understand that it's part of the process. Just like the ocean carries waves, the wave will come back.
I think that's a really good analogy.
Exactly, right? If you just keep going, you'll catch the wave and you'll look super cool in those surf videos that everybody watches.
So yeah, I think it would be cool if we give a little bit of a real life example. So, I mean, as Guido was saying, and you can speak about your journey, I can speak about mine, but with both, I mean, he started 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I started like 4 or 5 years ago. I think it's more around 4. And basically we've both have different businesses, different projects. We actually once did a business together. Like we had an offer where we were together.
Yep.
And what we realized is that every single time when we hit this, we quit. So basically how the cycle looks is, so you start somewhere, then you go through what is called like, this season of excitement. And again, thinking that this like the vertical axis is excitement plus results. So it's like the same thing. So you're excited, you get some results, as Guido said. The universe decides to reward you because you had the balls and the courage to put yourself out there. So basically, then after a certain period of time that we've both realized is usually, at least based on our experience, happened after between the first 3 to 6 months, you start getting, so I think in the beginning, it's called, I think this was from Hermose, right? It's called uninformed optimism.
Yeah.
So like ignorant. So you're ignorantly optimistic and you start getting some results. So it's like, cool. So then what happens after a certain time? Yes. I mean, it's hard, right? Like that's the whole point of business. Like there's a reason why most businesses don't succeed. Most people don't even dare to do it. It's hard, right? And it's supposed to be, but we have a different expectation. So then what happens is you start going down and you go through this like valley of despair, which is, I think, also called informed.
So uninformed is here, and then valley of despair.
Uninformed, somewhere here, and then here valley of despair, where basically, shit gets hard. You stop getting results or type of results that you were getting here. But if you kept going, and that's what we were speaking, like if you kept going, you would then turn that informed pessimism into informed optimism because you would understand what works, what doesn't. You kept pushing, and then you would eventually get to this point where you start getting results and finally break through, right? The problem is that I would argue, I don't know the exact numbers, but most of the people, 90% of the people quit when they're here, right? Shit gets hard and people quit. And this is where, again, you start questioning yourself. I think you said it yesterday and because the reason why we're sharing this and why we're speaking about this concept is because I think we're both right now in this season. So we both started a new business about 6 months ago, the business that we're speaking about. So right now we're kind of here. And that's why I was sharing with him, like, I don't know, this week when we're speaking about like, how can we really crush it this year and blow up? And I was sharing like, bro, I've been feeling like this, like I was sharing some thoughts with him. And after, he brought this up yesterday and he shared some of the thoughts that he heard in the lesson from this guy where he saw this video and thoughts. What were those thoughts? Because like those hit home for me, which was like, is this really for me? Like what were,
it's like, am I really passionate about this? Can I really make this work? Should I work for somebody else, to get more skills? Am I really good at this? Like maybe it's too competitive, right? All these
feels
reasons,
really hard. Yeah.
It's like, why is it hard? Like all of these ideas come to mind, but it's just part of the process.
Which is justifiable. Like that's a problem. That's what makes it's easy because those things are real. So basically what happens is when you're hitting this, it's easy to be like, you know what, this seems too hard. This might not be the vehicle. Let me just jump to start something else, right? So that's kind of what happened to us. So for me, 4 years ago, when I started getting obsessed about entrepreneurship and online businesses, I first started doing like challenges. Then I kind of hit this, and then I went to doing online courses. Then I had like a funnel building agency. Then I had a coaching business, which had a different type of offer. Then I changed my offer, and it was always after 3 to 6 months that I started jumping. So what happens is this: instead of you actually breaking through, like every time, so you start here, you go through this, and when you hit here, you jump to the next thing. And you start here, you do the same thing, and you're here, you jump to the next thing. Like that's kind of what we've both been doing. I mean, my experience was that, like initially it was like, I think we were going to do in the pandemic, challenges and an online platform and course, for wellness, me and a business partner, like in 2019, 2020. And then after 6 months, that didn't work out. So I was like, okay, let me do a funnel building agency because everyone was suddenly after the pandemic moving to online things. So I started that. Again, 3 to 6 months, ended up quitting, and I was like, no, let me do my coaching business. Like it's like that. It's been like that for 4 years. And I mean, yes, we've both seen some certain level of success, but we haven't actually committed to something for long and actually pushed through this. So that was my personal experience. I think it was, I don't know, easier way to put it into a real life example. I don't know if you want to share yours, like kind of what was your.
Yeah, very similar, honestly. So I had quit college the second time. I went into Amazon FBA. Then I switched to drop shipping. I actually had some good results with drop shipping, but then my product stopped selling. And then so I just started kind of trying to get different startup ideas, in the startup world. So I switched to that world, tried a few ideas that were horrible for like a year or something. Then I had a job for a year where I was doing content writing. After that, I had an agency, different types of agencies targeting different types of people, doing different types of services, so because it's not just about like, oh, I'm doing a different type of agency and that's okay. It's like, it's the same type of business model, the same type of avatar, the same problem you're solving, and the same service. You have to stick to all those four throughout the whole thing of this. It doesn't count if you change one thing here. Oh, but yeah, if I change the avatar, it'll be fine. And that's what I did. Like I did lesser and lesser changes, but they were still changes.
Yeah.
And because of that, I never reaped the rewards. Instead of solving the problem in front of me, I just thought, oh yeah, maybe this other thing will be a lot better, and then you get excited again. That's not the point of business. The point of business is to pick one person, solve one of their problems, and do it in a way that is very unique and really, really good, so that getting clients is easy because your product is amazing, because you spend thousands of hours on it.
And commit to that, which is, I think, the thing that we've both lacked the fact, right? Yeah. That's why we're doing this. So I think a good lesson to take from this, based on what we've both learned, is first of all, like becoming aware of this. And the reason why I wrote here expectations, because you mentioned that and I didn't want to forget, but changing your expectations. And I think the time that hit home, because yesterday yesterday was a rough day for me, honestly. Like I was like feeling I had a headache, probably migraines. So I was feeling bad physically, but we had a list of things that we're supposed to do. And I was telling him like, bro, like this feels really hard. This feels this and that. And so on. And we started speaking about this, and that's why we brought this up. But it was like, what if the expectation was that, bro? Like if we have the expectation that this should be easy, then yes, like when it gets hard, which is supposed to, you get disappointed and you have like this negative connotation. But if we changed our expectation and we're just like, bro, this is hard, but this is amazing, right? Like this is hard. It's supposed to be hard, right? And we know that if we push through this, we're going to be in this part where more than 90% of the people quit when they're here, right? So we're going to become part of that 10% who didn't quit and eventually figure it. Because just think about it. Like once you commit to something, to like one product, one solution, one avatar, like that's the thing. Like if you stick to this for long enough and then push through it and break through, you gather all of the information that you need to know how to solve those problems. But if you're quitting every time that you hit here, you hit this point, you quit, even if it's a small change, like just changing your avatar, like it changes a lot, right? Like you need to learn to go through that learning curve again of understanding what are their problems, what are they thinking, like all of those things. So it's like that expectation. I think the time or the concept that brought that home for me was, or Mosey showing, like, for example, when you start dating someone and let's say that you're looking for like your future wife, your spouse, like your life partner, right? So if your expectation is like, oh yeah, after 5 dates, I'm going to meet the person that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. If you don't meet that person after the first 5 dates, you're going to feel disappointment. But just think about this. It's an arbitrary gap that you created in your mind. Like it's something that we create in our mind and it's all based on expectations. So if you change your expectation to, you need to go on 500 dates and you find someone in date number 157, you would be like, oh shit, like that happened way faster. And if you think about it, like it was, in reality, the scenario was exactly the same. The only thing that changed is the arbitrary expectation. So if we do that here as well, now that we're both going through this season, we change the expectation. Instead of thinking like, oh, this should be easy, this should be exciting, we just make it like, bro, this should be hard, but regardless of how it feels, we need to do these things, which is why we're building this standard. So regardless of how we feel, we do these things so that we can push ourselves, because that's, I think, the only solution is just to push yourself out of it, right? Yep. Like the worst things that you can do is either jump to something else or just stay stuck in that loop by saying, shit, this is hard and I don't know what to do, and stop the momentum, which is why we're doing this, the challenge.
Exactly. And this actually relates to a sales concept, which is goals versus projections. So in sales, basically, when you have a sales team, you want to set projections, not goals, because goals are like it was, it's a gap of what, yeah, if everything goes great, I'll hit this goal, right? But most of the time, like we mentioned at the beginning of the video, it's about the floor. If you just raise the floor, which is your projections, then you can always keep raising that and be very secure about your what's called a say-do ratio. When you say you're going to do something, you actually achieve it. And so it's not that you shouldn't set big goals, but you should understand how the big goals break down into projections on a monthly basis. And you have to be willing to adjust your goals, right? So it's not about setting like shitty small goals, okay? Like that's Definitely
not
not
what
that.
we're saying. Yeah.
Exactly. Definitely big, audacious goals and all that stuff, right? But on a day-to-day basis, on a week-to-week basis, it's about projections. It's this week I'm going to get 3 clients. Okay. Is that reasonable? Yes, because last week I got 2. So I can push myself a little bit more, right? Based on the traffic I have, the number of hours
Real
I
data,
dedicate.
I think, is the other thing. Using
exactly.
data, right?
Exactly. And that's the other thing. You cannot set accurate projections until you have at least a month worth of data.
Execution.
You just can't.
But yeah.
And so that's it. Base your life on the lowest standards, not the goals. And then over time, your lowest standards become your goals.
Bring
and then
them
your
up.
goal becomes even bigger.
Yeah. So I think that and focusing on what you can control. I think that's the last thing, right? So, which is why our challenge is not like, oh, did I collect $10,000 this month? Because that kind of is out of your control.
Yeah.
Like you can do everything right and just be a rough month, right? Like, and not collect, but so it's focused on the things that we can control and things that are completely in our control, the inputs, and something that we can say like, did I do this or no? It's binary. It's very, very clear. Did I create 3 YouTube videos this week? Did I stick to my sleep schedule? Did I fall? Like, so it's focusing on the things that you can control and obviously trying to make sure that those things will lead you to the goals and the outcomes and the results that you're looking for. And yeah, just letting chips fall where they have to fall.
Yep.
So I think that's enough for the first video.
Yeah, I think so.
So if you watched until now, thank you. We really appreciate your time, energy, and attention. It's not something that we take lightly nor for granted. So as we said, documenting our journey each week, just literally what's been going through our head, our mind. So this week it was all about setting ourselves up, dealing with this. So yeah, at least the next 100 days, we're going to be pushing through this, but probably after the first 100 days are over, we're going to be like, bro, I mean, we'll make some adjustments on the go, but we're going to keep going. At least for the next 6 months, we know that we're going to be together. So we're going to keep pushing. So yeah, we're both getting super dialed in with business. That is a priority. We are eliminating everything else. I think it's the last thing. Remind yourself that willpower is limited. So if you can prime your environment beats willpower. So the reason why we're blocking YouTube, all of those things is to like literally eliminate everything else that is outside of our focus right now and priority, which is focusing completely on the business. So yeah, we're going to take all of you through the journey with us week by week, giving you the updates, how we're going to blow our businesses up, or at least set the right foundation this year so that we can blow it up next year, but committing to this, to our standards. And yeah, I think that's it. So see you on the next one.